So we are still on section 10.2, limits continued. We're going to do problem 7. Problem 7, we're again evaluating limits. So the limit as x approaches 0 from the negative side. So we're coming from the negative numbers to the positive numbers, essentially. So the negative number is getting, in absolute value, negatives are getting smaller and smaller, or they're increasing in actual value. And we are looking at the expression 6x over x to the fourth So here we have a polynomial over a polynomial. One way of simplifying this. So if we just evaluate the actual expression, we get 0 over 0. And because we get 0 over 0, we can then manipulate this algebraically to get an answer that would be hopefully some sort of tangible limit. So the best thing to do is to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the highest power of the denominator, the highest power of x in the denominator, which is x to the fourth. So remember, this is a trick that mathematicians use. Again, we're actually just multiplying the expression by 1, because 1 over x to the fourth divided by 1 over x to the fourth is just 1. Okay, so let's look at the denominator is going to be 1, and the numerator, we're going to wind up with 6x over x to the fourth, which is just going to be 6 over x cubed. And now we have a situation where we have a number over a variable. And when we have a number over a variable, we're likely going to get an infinite value as our limit. So we're coming at 0 from the negative side. And as you're approaching 0, numbers get really small. And as numbers get really small in the denominator, and 6 remains the same, obviously, you're dividing 6 by a number that's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So the result is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you imagine, if you get infinitely close to 0, again, we're talking about limits. We're not looking at the actual value that we're approaching, but just the numbers that are approaching 0, the limit in this case, 0. So here, let's say first, we get to like negative 0.1, and then we get to negative 0.01, and then we get to negative 0.0001, and then eventually we get to negative 0.1001s. So again, we're approaching 0, and we're getting really small negative numbers, and so the result is that the dividing 6 by a really tiny number is going to result in like an infinitely large number. But because the denominator, because we're coming at 0 from the negative direction, the result is going to be a negative large number, because we're going to have a negative number in the denominator, and so the answer is going to be negative infinity. And that is that, folks.